Three, two, one. So, do you go to open mics or do you perform comedy? Because I don't see you in the Zooms. Like, do you do it in real life?
Yeah, that's been the main objective, more real life stages. The past, I think, 5 months or so. I was very heavy in Zooms all of 2020, the first half of 2021. I think the second half of last year, I made the big transition. There was a nice sweet spot. This summer of 2021, I was doing Zooms during the day, going to real life open mics here in New York, and then like Zooms in between the commute, like during the commute from one New York open mic to another. And meanwhile, all of my regular job work would never get done. So, but that was a good time. Yeah.
So you were doing comedy before the pandemic happened.
Yeah, I started August of 2019, so that's about six months before that, lockdown started in March or so or late February of 2020. Yeah.
That's cool. So you started comedy, and after how many months or years after you started, the COVID happened?
I think about 6 months. So it was a very jam-packed 6 months. Like I started in August of 2019, and once I started, like it became a very like deep dive. I'm from Maryland, which is outside of Washington D.C. I was also near Baltimore, and August, September, October, all through February, I took a trip to Philadelphia, nearby, like somewhat nearby. But then the lockdown hit. The plan was to move to New York, like at that time, but that was postponed for about a year and a half. So
that's so where you are now. There is it's back to normal.
Yeah, here, so I'm in New York right now. Things are back to normal. I think the most recent issue was when like Omicron and Delta was a thing in like December, November of last year. That was a concern for some of the smaller venues or venues that maybe weren't always consistent with checking vaccine at the time. But otherwise, right now, in the past few months, things have been back to normal, it seems. So.
Okay, that's cool. And like, why did you want to start to do comedy like 6 months before the pandemic? And was it like urgent decision and you jumped to it, or you've been thinking about it for a long time?
Yeah, sure. So I think there was a series of events that made the logistics happen in that year, in that time period of August of 2019. And so before these like logistical things came to place, like the idea of doing comedy was lingering on my mind for many years, but I essentially was not in a place to act on it. So in August of 2019, that summer, this was a time where I quit my first job and I had a lot of time in front of me. And so I have a close friend. His name is Camilo Diaz. He kind of keeps a low profile. Nobody's heard of him, but apparently that's his plan. He was a friend of mine from college, and he started doing comedy in secret for like 8 or 9 months. And by that, I mean, he didn't tell our friends until he was at a level where he invited us to see his shows, and then he hosted his own shows and open mics. And over time, as we would support him, our mutual friends would kind of nudge or dare or tease me into giving it a try. And for many months, I was worried that I either would not be able to focus at work. In fact, this started earlier than my first job. Like I was in pharmacy school. And so like I was worried that if I bombed, then the emotional damage would affect my performance in pharmacy school, if not work. But what happened was in that summer of 2019, I ran into Camilo and our mutual friends at a wedding, and it was during a time where I quit my first job to give myself some bandwidth, some freedom, some breathing room to kind of explore my interests. and they're like, hey, are you ever going to follow up on that dare, or are you going to give your first open mic a shot? And I was like, you know what, I don't have any excuse. So I gave that first open mic a shot. It was in a very safe environment. It was in this mutual friends open mic. So it was very like cushioned, comfortable environment. We had our mutual friends present there, like that were there to support me. I had a good spot. So I had a very like, I think, luxurious introduction to comedy, with like a very kind of a easy, like well adjusted first open mic. And ever since, I stuck with it. And I was like immediately kind of comfortable or brave enough to go to other cities that I wasn't familiar with, and bear the the pressure or the tension, knowing that at the end of the day, I had a close friend who I met before he started stand up that is on the other side and was more senior to me. So I think those logistical aspects were very, influential in sort of how I'm able to stay committed and not like burn out or get exhausted in, comedy. So
That's cool. So the first time, it's like your friend was already like your friend already took the risk, and then
yeah,
he introduced you. So it's like
and he was actually the host. Yeah, he was the host of
I was
that
helpful.
first. Yeah, so everything was like optimal, very uh well adjusted for me. And yeah.
Yeah, so it's like he feed you, like he
Yeah,
brought you, and he was even the host. He bring you up to the
right.
stage. That's
Just yeah,
cool.
he was just like my mother. So
Oh my
very
God. Did he
loving.
help you with your jokes or what you were going to say, or did he give you like advice? Did he told you?
I definitely approached him with questions. I remember like my biggest question was, how do people like I would have these contemplative questions of like, how do comedians keep track of uh like whose material is who? Is there like a backlog? Is there like is it just mutually understood? Like, how do you prevent joke theft? And then I was like, I didn't know what parallel thinking was, but I asked whatever words I knew, like, do two comedians think of the same joke? So I asked him a lot of like theoretical, not well, like scenario questions, but this was well before I started. This person is a very like chill, laid back guy. And he was very helpful. He I don't know. So the answers he gave me was like, it's like mutually understood. You can write your jokes on Twitter or upload them to social media to just have a track record. Um, and yeah, I mean, he's pretty laid back. So like feedback here and there, he would help. As far as that first open mic set, it was all like original material, like from what was in my head or in my phone. Um, I think like because the adrenaline rush was so high, I did, and the room was like supportive. I think I did relatively well my first open mic, and then I bombed my second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth open mics until I could really understand like the core mechanics
Mhm.
to maybe get things going back in the correct direction by the seventh or eighth, and then and
I
then
don't know
and
if
then I understood the trial and error. But yeah,
yeah, I don't
but
know if people really bomb. I think
mm,
that you should listen to your set that you bomb, and
mm,
you should try to figure out why did you bomb. Maybe
right.
you have great materials and you like them, but the audience wasn't the right one for that materials. If you want me, I can buzz. I feel like you have some struggle or you want to do
Oh
something.
no, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay, that's cool. So I think that when you bomb, it's a very good opportunity for you to think like, was it the crowd or was the deliver bad? Did I didn't
Mm,
put the punchline? Like, why did I bomb? So you can learn and
sure.
you can adjust. Do you listen to
Yeah.
your sets? Like, do you record them and listen to them?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And yeah, I what was interesting is I was one of very few comedians in my hometown, which is Maryland. We call that the DMV, or like DC, Maryland, Virginia. And I sometimes got teased a little bit in the crowd because I would obsessively record both video and audio with my phone, and Actually, I have my tripod here. This tripod,
Nice.
it looks very beautiful. And
Okay.
and like what would happen in this hometown scene is that, you know, I would get teased like kind of like a nerdy guy, like, you know, recording every set, and they're like, oh, do you think this is going to be like your best set? Will this be like a 5-minute special? And uh, like it was like a strange stigma of, I guess, working hard or taking that extra step. But no, I agree. I think that documenting and recording and capturing data, I think one challenge is just you know, maybe detaching a little bit from the negative emotion, you know, from what I, you know, what's referred to as bombing, or just, you know, not having a good set. But that can be
Yeah.
emotionally
So
challenging.
sorry,
But yeah.
do you listen to your sets?
Yeah, I try. I could be better about it. I think so. I do listen to my sets sort of as often as I can. It's not. I don't have like a very diligent routine, but I I think one, because I try to upload pretty often to my YouTube channel and TikTok, and on some occasions Instagram, and Facebook as well. So when I'm looking for a clip to upload, that forces me to watch my sets. It's something I could be better at finessing and be a bit more dedicated and committed to. But I think at the end of the day, I do listen to my sets. It might not be the night of, but maybe within the same week of that set, or within the same 2 week time window of whatever set that was.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to talk with you about uploading, but now you said that you would record every set you do, because I think recording your set, you shouldn't record the ones that did well, the ones that maybe you can even get more benefit from the one that you bomb on,
Mm.
if you try to figure out why and you don't do the same mistakes. So I'm not limiting that you should just listen to the good one or the one you bomb, but maybe even you should be positive about the one that you bomb, because if you really listen to yourself and try to know why that happened, you can learn more. So
Sure.
you said that you would record it and you will listen to it within the window of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So you will
On
listen,
average. Yeah.
you will listen to it once and or 2 times. And when you listen to it, what's your goal when you listen to it? Are you trying to get the punchy out of it? And are you trying to know what people laugh on?
Yeah. I think that, so I usually only listen once just for time, you know, the time's sake, and the goal is, the goal can be a little bit messy. I mean, uh, I think that when I have a big gig, or like a big set, a big like headlining thing, then I I'm very much intentioned of reviewing my past few sets and like the past few months, with really just analyzing. I think the most uh insightful video clips that I look at are jokes that usually work 90% of the time, and for some reason didn't work. And so when I look at those videos, maybe I didn't enunciate, like really pronounce the words, or I missed a keyword. So I try to catch myself, or maybe I didn't know what the keyword was in the first place. So I think that my goals are based on maybe how close or far my next important or high level uh, gig is. If I don't have a big show around the corner, then the goal is kind of less, maybe less beneficial to my growth as a comedian. Then the goal is usually to find a clip that is nice to put on social media, and it's just kind of passively seeing like which clip sounds nice. But in terms of where I grow the most is usually when I get a booking in a maybe a bigger club, or for a longer set time. Maybe something longer than 20 minutes for me. Then I'm really analyzing recordings. I write down the joke word for word. and the different iterations of the wordings of the jokes in front of different audiences, and try to deduce like what went well, what did not go well. Is it a matter of the audience? Like, what were the differences between this audience and that audience? So I'm sort of in a lab mode, but I think the trigger is when I have maybe an upcoming, maybe within a less than a month time frame, like bigger show or gig that would really get me in the correct like
Yeah.
learning headspace. So yeah.
So I understood from your answer that you are getting booked currently.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so happy, like because it's weird to do comedy. Like some people they do it for 1 year, 2 years, and they are getting booked. Some people they've been doing it for 5 years and maybe not getting booked yet. Would you agree with
Sure.
that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you think, because for me, I think that when you do comedy, it depends what's your background. That helps a lot, and how you
Mhm.
grew up, and what's your perspective. That may
Yeah.
and who you really are. I feel like you can have more advantage than other people
Yeah.
by having this thing. So what do you think is your advantage? What makes you like you feel that special, or what makes you feel that you should book
Yeah.
me? You should book me. I'm good for this.
Sure. Yeah. So there are a handful of things that come to mind. I think that I'll just go in no particular order. What comes to mind? Comedy. I think, although comedy is an art form, I think there are mechanics and technicalities to it that are not the most artistic in nature. And because I have like a pharmacy background, uh, I have a set of like skills that are able to maybe deduce like formulas
Sorry, can
of
you say
kind of.
it again? The words are very complicated for me. Can you say it again
Oh,
slower or easier
oh,
word?
sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I think what maybe sets me apart, or some of the advantages I have, is that I have both like a science background, and then I also have like performing arts background. So I was in my 8th grade middle school play. So I have stage experience in acting. I also did theater
Mm.
in uh, like 2017, 2018 in like a South Asian, Indian subcontinental like production. So I had some stage experience, but I also have a science background in pharmacy. And I say that because stand-up comedy has a lot of structure set, like jokes. I think in its most basic form, a joke can have a very set structure of setup and punchline. So when I focus on the basics, I'm able to kind of identify patterns kind of in a scientific way.
Okay.
Although comedy has more of an arts um, element, I think that I'm able to find ways to speed up my ability to write tight material more quickly. Because in pharmacy school and in these challenging science subjects, we were required to memorize things and do projects in a short timeline. So I think because I have life experience in high pressure, like mental situations, that was able to translate
Yeah.
in my comedy. And some other things. So I'm also a very fortunate person. So as I mentioned earlier, my entry into stand-up comedy was very cushioned, very comfortable. I had a friend. I have a friend that I've known for more than a decade. I knew him before he started comedy, so I had a friend on the other side that was like senior. And it's also worth mentioning. So I moved from the Washington D.C. area to New York, where New York is like the world hub for stand-up comedy, because coincidentally, I have another friend, my best friend from high school. He's my roommate, and so he's a doctor here in New York City, and he happened to have an empty bedroom at a very affordable rate, and I was able to fill this space very
Ah,
strategically. So
nice.
many things, you know, I'm in a very fortunate like setup of like having friends in sort of just the right professions or locations to help me advance. And then yeah, I think those could kind of describe things that sort of how
Yeah.
I feel more comfortable taking risks because I have such a supportive network. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think is helping? Why do you feel like you are getting fortunate? Is it like because do you pray more, or do you give poor people more money, or are you a nice person? What are you doing? Why do you think you are fortunate, or just luck?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that I think the biggest thing is that I started at I think a relatively, how do I say this? So I'm 29 years old right now. I started stand-up comedy 2 or 3 days before my 27th birthday. And what's interesting is that I was actually happy that I started in, my late 20s instead of my early 20s or late teens. So I think that because with most activities, like I played soccer or football in high school, and I always wished I started earlier. I did boxing in college, but I always wish I started earlier. With comedy, I actually think I started at the right time because I had enough life experience, and I had experience like dealing with people. So like in pharmacy and in university settings, there's a lot of power dynamic with like professors, and those professors know the, I don't know, CEOs of these big pharma companies. So I think we had to really learn how to communicate in stressful like business situations, and also on the other hand, like customer care or patient care.
Mm-hmm.
Like pharmacists were in like CVS, like regular retail settings, like in a market. They're also in hospitals. So like you can deal with a very sick person, or you're dealing with like the CEO of that hospital. So we were, this training in pharmacy, we had to communicate with everything from like a customer that spoke very little English and had very little understanding of like human health, all the way
Yeah.
to like advanced scientists. So communication skills, I think, because I started after not only graduating from pharmacy school and having a pharmacy degree, but I also worked a regular job in like pharma industry for a year. So
Mm.
dealing with people and communicating with people, and managing email communications, managing direct messages, I think that's what made the biggest difference for me, and kind of helping things move forward. So
Perfect. You make sense, and I love when I'm talking to someone who makes sense. Like I feel like I'm not wasting my time. I mean, like, it's simple, but some people, they just don't make sense, but you make perfect sense. I love, like, I feel like you are honest and you are just say it as it is. So like, I opened business and I lost. I opened, like, I'm 23, but I already had experience of opening business and losing. I went to college for 5 years. I graduated from college. I worked maybe 4 jobs, different jobs, and then I opened my company and I start my job. I opened shop. Now when I get to comedy, I see other comedians that are doing the mistakes that I did when I started my business before. Or, for example, dealing with friends, and I'm like, listen, this drama doesn't work, or like you are trying to. There are too many things that you can experience on your business life before you become comedians, and it's very helpful, which is your case. And also, I love how you connect science with making jokes. It's fast. You should write a book about that. But I think comedians don't want to talk exactly how they make their jokes, because then and that's why I don't want to pressure you more and ask you, like, how do you like, if you see a nice car or nice project or nice food, it's like secret. This I'm not gonna
Ah,
come and tell you how I cooked it for you, because then it's everybody can cook that, or at least like, oh, okay, it's salt and pepper and okay. But
hmm,
there is an art. How many percentage of salt you put? How many percentage of
sure.
pepper you put? How you put it? How long you put it in the fire? So I don't fuck with with the comedians and their jokes. You know, that's your secret. Do you want to say that
Hmm.
something on that?
Sure. I think I'm relative. I agree, or I understand what you're saying. I happen to be pretty open about my process. I think that um, so I think one of the reasons. So I can talk about my process, and then I can also talk about maybe why I'm less afraid to kind of
Okay.
share my process, because it's not very like wow, or like I'll put it this way. So I have certain goals about my methods, but like I would like to write every single day, and I would like to see myself waking up at this time and write this much for this many hours. But the truth is, I'm human, like I have to deal with work, I have to deal with sleep issues, and so
Yeah.
so so realistically my process looks like this. Like, it's usually when a thought occurs to me that could manifest, or when a thought occurs to me that can turn into a joke, then I'll quickly write it down in my phone. So I use an app called Google Keep. Just it's a note-taking app that
Cool.
is cloud, Google Keep. So I like transferring. I understand, like, there are times when I want to write by hand, uh, but and that's fine. But I also like make sure that I take a picture of those notes, because I'm a messy person or disorganized. So if my material is in the cloud, that I can pull it up from whether it's the phone or computer, like that gives me comfort. And this is a part of my process. So it's like, if when something funny or potentially funny occurs to me, or if something serious, just venting, I'll write it down, make sure it's accessible in like a cloud, um, and then then the next thing is to try it on stage. But if the open mic is there's too much time, then maybe I'll try a TikTok. I'll film myself on a TikTok just to get the words out, right? Or YouTube, just to get the muscles going. I might put it on Twitter, just the premise, see how it goes, and then eventually try it on stage. And that's really the gist of my process. I think and so the reason I'm not afraid maybe sharing that is because um when I talk to certain comedy club bookers, they look for, this is not all of them, but certain ones, uh certain comedy bookers look for very unique comedians that tell jokes that are very unique to that comedian. So like in my tight 5 or my tight 10, um I tell a lot of jokes that are like very personal to me, such that they can't really be replicated by anyone else. So like, having a unique name. I do a lot of jokes that are about the spelling of my name. Like, no, it wouldn't make sense for someone else to do them,
Yeah.
because it just wouldn't fit. So I think that because that's often the goal of, I think, my most tight material that I want to showcase. I'm pretty transparent about my processes. And I'll also admit that, like, I love stand-up comedy, and I love writing jokes, but it's also not like, I think I do have a healthy amount of detachment. It's not like uh, the number one like source of pleasure or passion. Growing up, like, uh, I would daydream about being a rock star or being a singer, but I just don't have those awesome skills or looks. But I also enjoyed comedy, so I think that having a little bit of separation, a little bit of a detachment, allows me to, the fact that I don't take it like extremely seriously, where it's like very stressful, having a little bit of a emotional gap allows me to kind of breathe a little bit and have fun with the process. So that's sort of
Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. I agree with you. For me, I try to bring different perspective to the audience. I try to catch their attention and shock them with the different perspective, and then I will exaggerate the perspective, and I will exaggerate the, how to call it in English, what the perspective caused, or how I would exaggerate everything, and
Sure.
people would be like, "Wow, this is the perspective," and then what happened? They're like, even wow, in a funny way. But I don't tell people this, because people, after I do my sets, they always ask me which one is true, which one was lie. Is it all true? So that's all how I catch your attention. Like, if you wanna know if it's true or what, so you can listen, you can laugh, and then go and do your research. But
Yeah.
that's what you get. So you have very good accent. Like, I cannot tell where did you come from.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So like ethnically, I'm, Indian, but I was born in the US. So my parents moved to Washington, D.C. in the 80s. And then I was born in 92. And so, yeah, born and raised here in the US. I've only visited India maybe twice. So, yeah.
So can you do the Indian accent? Did you try on your comedy to make people?
Yeah. I only have, I think, one joke, maybe two. I have one solid joke that uses the accent, and it's very the usage of the accent is like one or two words. So, and I emphasize that because I don't want the accent to like take over the whole set. That's dishonest. But in the particular joke, I'm playing like I'm doing an impression of someone else for a very short period of time. When I started comedy, I wanted to avoid using the accent, but it fit for one particular story or joke. So I try to essentially limit myself to like less is more, or because this voice that you hear right now is my authentic voice, so I'd want that to be the majority. But yeah, I'll dabble in it here and there. So yeah.
Do you feel like your voice is getting better while, like, your throat is, because I feel like if you work out in the gym, you grow muscle. If you talk so much, because I find this funny people who make in YouTube exercise how to make your voice rough. I'm like, I feel like I'm in drugs when I'm doing their video. I think there is no exercise, but when you talk more, when you go more on stage, when you do more podcasts, your voice start to change and be better. It's like all with practice. So what do you feel like your voice is the same?
No, I generally agree. But I would also say that for stand-up comedy in particular, the writing tends to come first, at least in my opinion. The actual words are the slightly higher priority, or might be the better starting point as far as what I would recommend. And then the next layer or the next step is to decide the tone or the inflections, or if it's a more detailed impression, and then you maybe like actually purposefully maybe train or do the impressions. But generally I agree. I mean, it's like the more open mics you do, whether or not you're prepared for those open mics, sometimes it's good to do open mics without any preparation or without any plans, just to see how you function on a stage, without like a set plan, and see if you can create laughter, see if you can create something funny out of nearly nothing. So generally I agree that the more you do something, the more I would speak on people's podcasts or YouTube channels. The more I would do Zoom sets or in real life comedy sets. Like the more comfortable I would get, the more in tune my voice would be. But I also think writing and the choice of words or keywords and stand up, and at least for me in my style of comedy, tends to have a slightly higher priority. And then the second step is like fine tuning the voice. So
I don't know. I think the reason I ask you, why do you think you are fortunate, and I just wanted to know more about what's your view on like how life is, how why we are here and how the world is
Mm,
run. So I just wanted to know like whether you are from the people who think there is God or some people who think
mm,
there is. I just like I just like to know how people think. That's all. Like
mm.
that's why I asked. So, and before you answer this question, how many more minutes or hours or days you can stay in this podcast?
I think I'm pretty flexible. I'm free until like 6:15 Eastern time. So that's like what, 30 more minutes.
Okay, we can even like do another 20-25. So I don't. They say
Sure.
if you're if someone is honey, like let's say you are honey, don't lick it all. You know, it's like you give me 30 minutes, so I'm gonna just take 25 minutes, not all.
Ah,
You know, like
sure,
be
sure, sure.
nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense in where you are, but that makes sense
No,
in
it makes
other
sense.
countries because people will lick everything all the time. So they are
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, so tell me, what do you think?
Yeah. I think that my spiritual views are still like I'm not certain, so maybe agnostic would be the appropriate word culturally, or so the religion that my parents were raised in and raised me in is Hinduism, and I guess that's what I was taught, but I would, my parents were not very like um they were not very they weren't I wasn't going to like Hinduism school or anything. It was just the religion that my parents had. It impacted my lifestyle. Like I'm vegetarian, and that's all because of my parents' Hinduism. But in terms of my view of the world, I mean, I've been in a pretty like I've been pretty happy the past few months, but that was not always the case. So I used to be very cynical, especially when I started stand-up comedy. Like I had this worldview where everything was like by chance, like there was no, I don't know, justification, or I used to I never really thought about if someone prays more, then better things are bound to happen. Um I didn't see things that way. I just saw things as like things happen entirely by chance, or it's like the harder you work, the luckier you will get, but nothing is ever guaranteed. I don't know. Today, I mean, I think to some extent that's still how I feel, but I'm not as maybe serious about it. But I'm pretty open about my uncertainty. Like I'm just not sure what I believe. Sometimes I watch like sci-fi movies, science like with like aliens, and my mind goes in that direction of like the Matrix or different
Yeah.
dimensions, or are we in a simulation? Uh, just for fun, I guess. Like, well, I actually do like science fiction, and that I like thinking about those things. But when I'm in that frame of mind, I'm not really thinking about how it affects like my relationship to that. So, and then especially with stand-up comedy, I don't think about it too much as a comedian, just because I guess laughter, tends to be the priority, and I like when I write my jokes and my sets, like it's always like how I'm always maximizing the number of laughs per minute or whatever. So it's often I often don't get the chance to think about like the spiritual meaning of things as a comedian. So it's like a newer topic for me. Yeah, as a comedian, that is. But yeah.
When you say vegetarian, it's still stuck in my mind. Is it why vegetarian? So now, what now? You say you are what Hinduism? What's
Yeah,
can I,
Hindu. Yeah.
so all Hindu are vegetarians,
I think
or you
yeah, so
didn't?
the most devout.
I didn't know about it. Now I heard from you. Like, tell me, like
Oh,
I'm
sure, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the serious, more devout Hindus are vegetarian, and I think it's like there are levels to it. So they're the more casual, less devoted Hindus. They will eat all meat except beef. So no beef. Some Hindus, they will eat no meat, but fish or seafood is okay. For me, I eat no meat, but eggs, I do eat eggs. So eggs is like the, for me or my family, like eggs is the cutoff. There are some Hindus that don't even eat eggs. So there are levels, I guess, depending on the devotion or interpretation. Um, yeah,
So what the better Hindu you are, the less you eat from this stuff. Like,
I guess so. Yeah, and I don't like me myself. I don't necessarily. I don't. I'm just the messenger. This is just from what I know. The reason I'm vegetarian is because it's a habit. So like, I have tried meat. I have tried like chicken. I tried like one or two bites of burgers. But my body just somehow like it like doesn't digest nicely, or it's too strange. So my vegetarian habit is not really spiritually grounded. It's just because I was raised in a vegetarian household. I have some Hindu friends that were in my situation that when they got to university or college and they tried meat, then they were no longer a vegetarian. But for me, it's just a diet habit that somehow stuck. But there's not much like spiritual connection tied to that, at least that I'm aware of. But that's
yeah, I don't
the
know
thing.
how. Maybe you don't want to piss your mom and dad, but
Maybe.
talking about how Hinduism or Hindu approach eating meat and vegetables could be great premise to work on and punch it up.
Sure.
I mean, like it's fascinating. Like many people don't know this, and then I think that's what attracted me about comedy. The part of making fun about cultures and things that humans create and make
Yeah.
fun of it. And I think it's the best way to get people who are hunted with it or that they are programmed in the mind out of it is by comedy, laughter, and education. This is what
Right.
attracted me about comedy the most. So that's why I told you work on it.
Yes, I agree for sure.
Um, yeah, let's not go that way. Let's come back. I wanted to talk with you more about. I when I was kid, I would throw up if I eat any sort of meat. Like even if you for example, if you lie to me and you put some meat in small piece of meat and I don't feel it, I would throw up. Like I have like my body is will realize that there was meat, and
Mm.
I started eating nugget chicken. This is the first time I was introduced to meat because the nugget chicken it doesn't even taste like meat anymore. It's like,
Mm.
but that's how I was. And now it's my favorite food, meat and chicken. Like I just,
Mm.
do you have an idea like why my body refused it? And now I just smash, how they say when I eat it. I smash
Mm.
everything in there. So why? Do you have an idea why our bodies does this?
Yeah, sure. I think I mean, people's bodies and tastes absolutely change over time. There, even as an adult, like acquired tastes. Like as an adult, if you try something new, maybe the first one or two bites you don't like it, but then something happens in your brain where you do like it. So like salt and vinegar flavored chips. When I first tasted salt and vinegar chips, I didn't like it, but then I somehow my taste buds like rewired. I think also with growing up, spices. So growing up, like most young kids, I think like so I would as like most young kids, I didn't like spicy food growing up just because it was too much spice to handle. So maybe I did like spicy food as a kid, but it just wouldn't be considered spicy to adults because they're able to handle a higher level of spice. I mean, I don't think it's the same like experience as you with meat, but I also think that just generally speaking, when it comes to I'm familiar with many examples of kids as they grow into adults, that foods that they once used to either dislike or just couldn't digest, that all of a sudden, maybe with just better, more matured like physiology or health systems, or you're not only able to digest it better, but then you enjoy it more. Also, adults, like, as an adult, you need more protein, you need more muscle, so it's possible that your body was more accepting on the molecular level of foods that are higher in protein, and therefore meat.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah,
You said that you did boxing, and how do you replace, like, because I feel like you should take, if you like, if you don't work out, I think you need like around 110 gram of, how to call it, like you need the 110 gram of protein, yeah, which is like, like
sure,
chicken breast has like 37. So like if you
sure,
don't work
sure,
out, you need around like 300 gram of chicken breast.
sure.
Like, I
Yeah,
mean, that's as like average for average. And then if you want to build muscle, it depends how much more you want to
yeah,
dose. But I mean, like as average, you need something like that just to be a
yeah.
healthy, strong man. So where do you replace all that? Or you just enjoy
Right.
with food?
No, yeah. So in from age 14 to 18, this was a problem, and my parents were not really aware of like this deficiency. This was a challenge. Then after going to university, so moving out of my parents' house at age 18, then I was able to I had more control over my own nutrition. So eggs. So my main sources of protein would be eggs, lentils, beans, dals.
Cheese,
Um, what is it?
cheese,
Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
cheese. You don't eat
Oh,
cheese.
cheese. Yeah, cheese. Yeah. So cheese, and then also soy. So like soy protein, tofu. So like mock, uh, essentially like soy chicken or tofu based, like mock meat would be the thing. And then like also like protein shakes. Like I would drink many protein shakes with like the protein powders that had but it overall it was a challenge. Like I growing up, this was a big problem. I still whine. I still like complain to my parents to this day about that. As someone that did sports, at boxing and earlier soccer or football, it was a very annoying it was a very annoying situation. And I tried to talk about it in my comedy. I have a couple of jokes or
That's
stories,
cool.
but it was definitely a challenge. It's uh I I don't know how to say this. Like I really do still complain to my parents about that. My parents were very good about many things, but I wish they were not,
Yeah.
controlling of my diet. So yeah.
And that's what annoyed me, that parents also oppressed their
Yeah.
children's lives. After they even oppress their own life with the wrong ideas and
Yeah.
beliefs. So did
Yeah.
you feel like weaker, or what was the challenge?
Yeah. I mean, I think that in from age 14 to 18 in high school, like you could very much notice and see that the kids that were eating meat without any worries, like they were growing taller, they had bigger muscles. I definitely
Stronger.
noticed this. Yeah. Especially when you see other Indian kids that had either they were eating meat behind their parents' back, like hiding it. I was not able to do that.
Oh
Like I
my
was an only
God.
child. Yeah. I was an only child. I don't have any siblings. And my mom is very controlling. Like she would when I was a young kid, she would come into like visit lunchtime just to like see what I was up to or what I was eating. So yeah, it was, it was very there was a lot of pain, a lot of jealousy. uh I was able to make changes to my diet at age 18, but that did not change the experience I had from like from birth to up to up before age 18. So um and I'm 5, 6 and a half. Life is just not things are challenging as a short man. Men are, I think, there's like statistics or studies out there that taller men are more successful in work and life. And
Oh no,
yeah.
man. The most successful man that I admire, and I mean successful in all aspects, money,
Mm,
happiness,
mhm.
family, everything, human, is short. Joe Rogan.
Okay,
Joe Rogan.
sure.
Short.
Yeah, this is
So
true. Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
research, they can, like, how they say, like, the one who did the research, you can give him cup of water and put his research paper inside it, and he can drink that water just for his hard work. Um,
Sure.
yeah. So, like, that's why it's funny when people want to be vegetarians, or
Mm,
even some people, they want to make their cat or dog vegetarian.
mm.
And you know what's funny? That people are funny. So
Yeah.
they are going out with research. Like, for example, the research is like, um, that when cigarette come out, doctors used to come in the advertisement smoking cigarette. You
Yeah.
are so it's the same what they are doing now with the meat industry, which is
Mm,
with the science or research, and they say to people, you don't need to eat meat. And now even there are families that feed their kids vegetarian or fake meat.
mhm.
Or when you go to the supermarket, there is this fake burger, or I don't know, vegetarian burger that has the same amount of protein like the normal one, but
Mhm.
it's more processed, and
Sure.
people are buying it. I feel it's the same game with that cigarette when it come out, the same
Mm,
game with the religions, where they put ideas in people. And so I feel like people are still doing the same mistakes, but there are different ways to manipulate human mind. And always people are, I feel that now the science, when it's used in the bad way, it's like the religions before. Now it's
mm,
the new strategy, because people, there are no new, like, people are tired of religions. You cannot scam
mhm.
people anymore with religions. So now they
Right.
are trying to scam people with fake science about vegetarians, about COVID, which is, it's very touchy subject. We don't have to talk about it, but all these aspects.
I think that with the vegetarianism and diet, like, so my situation is frustrating because the damage is already done. I would like to eat meat, and I'm still open to like trying bites and pieces, like one or two bites of real what chicken or shrimp or whatever my friends are eating right in the restaurant. um but I also think that like even regular meat is subject to the same problems. Even regular meat can be overly processed in the US, especially. It may not be as like fresh or directly from a farm to the market, like.
Hmm.
So I guess the point is these problems can be complicated, and the solutions are also complicated. Sometimes there is no solution. You just do your best. It's like people that's sort of the general vibe I get from
Yeah, I
the friends
agree.
that
I
I've
agree with
yeah
you. Look,
yeah
let's put it that way. You know that in the future we might be able to live even longer, and we might like now we can replace knees, we can replace hips, we have more
Mhm.
access of information about food and diet. So I'm sure like in couple years there will be more access of information. Maybe we will not even need food. Maybe we will live in the matrix, or maybe we will have different
Mm.
bodies, So I'm not saying that meat now is the best solution. Like as I told you, we can be even in
Mm.
different bodies, but do what feels better, like on what you have access to. And it's
Yeah.
like you can feel it, and as you say, you can see it with the kids when and your friends, even the one that they are Indian who used to snake and eat meat, are stronger,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, this is what we have, and do the best with the sources you have.
Mm. Yeah.
There is argument everywhere, but people with science would take the more negative stuff from the meat and just put it their own ways, and not take the negative stuff from there. And there is always buyers. So things
Mhm.
get screwed.
Yeah, and I think the deeper source of that is large amounts of money. So science can be done in a theoretically in a good natured way, but then when profit, and
And
money is thrown into the mix of people on top, that I think that's what uh that's the core source of the problem. Yeah,
yeah.
greed, I guess. Yeah.
Look, it's 1 hour. I think we've been here for almost 1 hour. And yeah, I really, I say this to most of my guests, that
Mm.
you like, most of them, all of them, I could talk with them as much as I can. You are, and as I said, like, I really enjoyed talking to you today so much, and it's just
Me
pleasure
too.
to have you here. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hope to see you in the Zoom mics, or maybe one day in real life. But it was just great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, no, thank you, Muad. This was I had so much fun with this podcast. Yeah, hopefully I can meet you in real life one day. Remind me where you are. And
So I'm in Cyprus, but hopefully I will be in Canada soon.
Good. Okay,
Yes, and yeah,
good. Yeah.
we will. The big plan is to control the US.
Yes, we'll take over. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully we keep in touch. I do open mics almost every day online.
Nice.
So you can always hit me up if you want to change the mood and do some
Yeah.
online open mics. And yeah, it's all cool. So thank you so much, and
Thank you.
goodbye. Bye bye.